Something really big is happening in Japan. I mean, a major political shift that's got everyone from Washington to Beijing paying close attention. We're talking about the rise of Japan's first female prime minister, SANAE Takaichi. And let me tell you, she is a fascinating figure, a total paradox, who just pulled off an absolutely stunning victory. Right out of the gate, she's got a high-profile endorsement, and it's a very specific kind. Donald Trump himself praised her, basically calling her a nationalist leader just like Argentina's Javier Milei. That one comment immediately frames her on the world stage as a tough, Japan-first kind of leader. Okay, but here's the twist. This is where the story gets really wild. Despite her super conservative platform, her approval rating with Japan's 18 to 29-year-olds is a staggering 90%. So how on earth did a politician with such a polarizing platform completely win over Japan's youth? Well, let's unpack this Takaichi phenomenon. To really get how Takaichi grabbed all this power, we have to look at what happened on February 8th. She called a snap election, and it wasn't just a win, it was a political earthquake. So here's the crucial part. Her party, the LDP, now has what's called a supermajority. Now, this isn't just a comfortable win. This fundamentally changes the whole game in Japanese politics. It gives her a mandate to govern that no leader has had in a very long time. So what can she actually do with this supermajority? Well, a lot. She can basically force legislation through, even if the upper house of parliament says no. But even more important, she now has the political muscle to go after her biggest goal, changing Japan's pacifist constitution. A move like that would completely reshape Japan's role in the world. And that brings us right back to the central puzzle of SANAE Takaichi herself. She's this incredible mix of old-school traditional conservatism and this super modern viral appeal. It just doesn't seem to fit the usual political mold. I mean, look at this. On one hand, her platform is deeply conservative. She wants to beef up the military, which means changing or reinterpreting their constitution. Her Japan-first approach includes being really tough on China and pushing for economic self-reliance. But on the other hand, her public image is incredibly savvy and modern. We're talking about playing K-pop songs on the drums, taking casual selfies with world leaders. Even her favorite snacks sell out everywhere. She has totally mastered the art of the modern political image. And a huge part of her appeal, especially with those younger voters, is that she feels, well, authentic. She's not from some powerful political family. She's known for having this insane work ethic, holding policy meetings before the sun even comes up, instead of going to fancy elite dinners. To a lot of people, she's exactly the kind of shakeup that Japanese politics needs. So one of the biggest issues Takaichi tapped into is this growing frustration around immigration. It's a feeling that was kind of simmering just below the surface for a while, and she really brought it out into the open. Now, if you look at the actual numbers, the scale of this might surprise you. Japan's unauthorized immigrant population is just 0.058%. Compare that to the US, which is at 4.6%. So this isn't a story about massive numbers of people. It's a story about perception and some very specific problems. See, the main issue isn't really illegal crossings. It's people who overstay their visas. Out of about 71,000 people, the biggest group comes from Vietnam, followed by Thailand, South Korea, and China. Most of them came into the country perfectly legally. They just didn't leave when their visa was up. But here's where things get really tense. There are these loopholes in the social security system for legal foreign residents. Many have to sign themselves up for pension and health insurance, but almost nobody does it. Look at this. Less than half pay into the pension system. And you can see why this makes Japanese citizens angry. It feels like they're paying to support a system that other people aren't contributing their fair share to. So, Takaichi's response, it's blunt, it's direct, and it has turned out to be incredibly popular. Her new policy is simple. If you don't make your payments, you don't get your visa renewed. Period. They're even willing to take away permanent residency over it. For a lot of voters, this just seems like common sense fairness. And there's another hot-button issue, the abuse of business visas. You had foreign investors setting up fake shell companies that didn't do any actual business, all so they could buy up property. With almost yen 1 trillion in foreign money flooding Tokyo's real estate market just this year, housing prices have gone through the roof. It's become almost impossible for young Japanese families to afford a home in their own city. So you have to ask, where does all this nationalist feeling come from? Well, it didn't just appear out of nowhere. It's actually deeply tied to Japan's unique history of isolation and self-reliance, an identity that was forged over centuries.
I want you to just imagine this. For more than 200 years, your country is completely sealed off from the rest of the world. From 1639 to 1853, this sakoku, or closed country policy, meant Japan basically grew up in a bubble. That long, quiet time of isolation created a very powerful, very unified national identity that, still shapes how the country sees outsiders today. And you see this same fierce drive for self-determination all through Japan's modern story. Think about it. After 1945, when they embraced nuclear energy, it wasn't just about getting electricity. For a country with almost no natural resources of its own, it was a declaration of independence. It was a way to control its own destiny. And that deep-seated desire is a really powerful force in Japanese politics.
So, with Takaichi in charge, Japan is really at a crossroads, and the choices it makes right now will have huge consequences for its friends, its rivals, and its future on the world stage.
With the United States, the relationship is actually entering what some people are calling a new golden age. For years, Washington has wanted Japan to spend more on its own defense, and with Takaichi, they have a leader who is more than willing to do just that, strengthening that alliance to create a counterbalance in Asia. But while things are warming up with the US, the relationship with its biggest neighbor, China, is getting icy cold. Takaichi is famously tough on China, and tensions are rising fast. Right now, the relationship is at its worst point in over a decade, which makes for a really volatile situation in the region. So that's where we are, and it all boils down to this one big question. SANAE Takaichi has the power, and she has the public support to completely reshape her country. Will her Japan First vision lead to a new golden age of national pride and strength? Or will it echo the isolation of its past and push Japan away from the very world it once rushed to join? The path she chooses now is going to define Japan for generations.